Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel and this new series that I call Journey to Med, where I'm trying my best and my very hardest to help prospective medical applicants achieve their dreams and their goals by getting into medical school. And as we all know, the UCAT, or the University Clinical Aptitude Test, is a very time-pressured exam. There's a lot of different questions and very little time. So I decided that it would be a good idea for me to give you 5 different tips. 6 different tips. I added an extra one at the end. On how to manage your time for the UCAT, because time management skills for this exam is as important as knowing all of the different techniques and tips for each individual sections. And if you want to know more about tips and tricks for each individual section, I have a whole playlist and a video for each and every one of these sections. So today I will be focusing on 5 different tips. Again, 6 different tips for managing your time on the UCAT, and there's going to be a little section at the end to explain to you guys kind of a technique to improve your time for the UCAT. So if this type of content interests you, please subscribe to my channel, like this video, and share this video with other UCAT test takers as well, or other people that could benefit from it as well. So now that all of this is out of the way, let's get into the video. So the first tip that I have for you guys is a very fundamental tip, and it was one of those tips that was extremely difficult for me to internalize as a UCAT test taker last year. And this tip is that you should not be scared to skip questions. By all means, just skip questions. Skip all the questions that you don't understand, the questions that are too hard, the questions that, take too long to answer. Because this exam is not made for perfectionists. It's not made for people like me that like to really fine-tune and make sure that the answer is correct and, think about all of the different possibilities and, this is not made for us. So we have to really understand that we need to skip questions when we can't answer them. Because the UCAT is one of those exams that they sometimes put harder questions at the beginning of the section, and slowly the questions become gradually easier. So if you spend all of your time on the hard questions first because you want to answer every single question on the first try, then you're going to miss the opportunity to have the time to actually answer those easy questions that you would have gotten the points for. So if you really just take one tip from this whole video, is don't be afraid to skip the questions, to skip them, flag them, and come back to them at the end if you have time to fine-tune your answer and make sure that your answer was correct. The second tip that I have for you guys is the fact that when you do skip a question, rather than just selecting some random answer option, it's a better investment, let's say, for you to actually look at the answer options and make an educated guess. And what I mean by educated guess is the fact that when you look at the answer options, you should discard all of the answer options that are kind of too far off of the spectrum, all of the answer options that are very different from all of the other ones, and all of the answer options that are kind of red flags and are very unlikely to be correct. And that will actually allow you to reduce the answer options that you can choose from, and in turn increase your likelihood and your chance of getting that answer correct. And I actually use this tip and this technique very often in abstract reasoning, and you can actually see me explaining it to you guys very clearly in my abstract reasoning videos that I will put up here. I also did this with quantitative reasoning and decision making. However, for verbal reasoning, it was a bit more difficult, but what I would do is that when I didn't know and I wanted to skip, I would discard all of the answer options that had absolutes, like words like must, have to, and things like that, because for me, they were too far off the spectrum and they were too absolute for being correct. So that's my second tip. The third tip that I have for you guys is the fact that rather than jumping in head first when you're answering questions and trying to be really quick and answering question after question after question, sometimes it's also good to distance yourself a little bit and ask yourself questions. Is this question worth it? Is putting 1 minute of my time to answer this question worth it in the big scheme of things? Because sometimes, especially in quantitative reasoning and decision making, there will be some questions where you will know all of the steps to get the answer, but you will also know that there's a lot of different steps and it's going to take you at least a minute. And is it worth your time investing that much time into answering this question? Or is it better for you to do the first two tips, meaning to skip, do an educated guess and move on, and then at the end of the section, if you do have some time to spare, then you can come back to that question, answer it because you know how to. But for me, managing your time is that you need to be able to distance yourself and always make sure that you're answering the questions that are really quick to answer and easy first, rather than spending all of your time on easy questions that are also really long to answer, if that makes sense. The fourth tip that I have for you guys is the fact that you should spend some time when you're practicing for the UCAT to learn the tips and techniques for each individual UCAT section. And my first thing for you to do that would be to watch my UCAT videos that I've done on each section of the UCAT, where I explain to you guys how I prepared for these sections, and more importantly, I explain to you guys and walk you through actually answering some example questions. And I think that's very valuable because it gives you kind of an approach to how to shave off a few seconds here and there. But it's really important that you do spend the time to practice each question, each section, and build up some tips and tricks and techniques that actually work for you, that will help you gain some time and shave off a few seconds that could be very worthwhile in the end when you want to check your answers or go back on the questions that you skipped. Because there is just so many questions you can skip, and when you do want to answer a question, it's a matter of making sure that you know how to answer the question and how to answer that question quickly. And for you to answer a question quickly, you need to have learned the techniques and tips before that and during your practices. So that would be my fourth tip. Tip that I have for you guys is a very important one, and it's the fact that you should be using keyboard shortcuts. This is a micro efficiency tip. It's a tip that will help you shave off a few milliseconds or a few seconds here and there, that will help you build a bulk of time for the end of each section that you'll be able to reinvest and reutilize to check your answers, to go back on the skipped questions and figure out an answer for that. And maybe fine-tune your educated guesses, etc. And so it's extremely important in that sense. And you should really, really aim to only use the mouse to select your answers. Everything else should be done with the keyboard. So for example, I think each time I'm going to be saying command, that will be for Mac, and the equivalent in Windows, I think, is control. So for example, to go to the next question, it's command N. To go to the previous question, it's command P. To go find the calculator, it's command C. To flag a question, it's command F. And I think that's the only keyboard shortcuts that I know of that I actually used. I also think that it's extremely important that you familiarize yourself with the numerical keyboard and become really agile and quick with the numbers on the keyboard, because that will also help you shave off very valuable seconds when you're using the calculator in decision making, quantitative reasoning, and these other sections. The last tip that I have for you guys is the fact that you should improve your mental math abilities and make sure that you improve both on accuracy and speed. Especially for quantitative reasoning and decision making, for both of these sections, you will have a lot of calculations to do, and being able to do mental maths will help you shave off some valuable seconds, because using the calculator can be sometimes more time consuming than doing mental maths. And I'm not the best at mental maths, and I think you probably realize that by watching my quantitative reasoning videos that you can see here. But having said that, I did do a conscious effort last year to, download an app and do I think 14 questions every single day to kind of try and improve on that. However, if mental math and you're like me and it's not your best thing ever and you're not that good at it and it's fine, then you should maybe invest more of your time in the last tip and making sure that you are extremely quick with keyboard shortcuts, with the numerical keyboard, and being able to use a calculator very quickly and very efficiently in a way that if you would do mental maths, you would be at the same speed with your calculator, or you might even be quicker with the calculator because you're so quick with your fingers to, click on all of the different keys. So yeah, that would be my sixth tip. So now I'm going to move on to the second part of this video, where I'm going to be explaining to you guys how to actually improve your time for the questions and reducing your time to hit that mark that you want to hit. And so the first thing that you want to do is that when you first start, you should be answering questions with no time pressure. You should be just really actually focusing on, I think, tip number 4, which is to build some techniques for each of these question types. So at that point, really no time pressure at all, just really understanding how each of these sections and questions work. So yeah, and how to maybe save a little bit of time and just know the theory. And then once you become comfortable with that and your accuracy is pretty high and you're able to answer questions really easily with no time pressure, then it's at that point that you start to add a time pressure. And at first you give yourself a lot of time, maybe 3 minutes per question or 2 minutes per question. And then when you really hit that mark, often it becomes easier and easier. Then slowly and gradually you reduce the time for each question until you reach the mark that you do want to reach. And that's the way I did it. And then you also need to realize that sometimes some questions will take you 5 seconds and others will take you 45, which means that on average it balances out to the amount of time on average that you have per question. So don't put yourself down if a question you answer a bit longer, it's okay. And then the next tip for you to improve your time is not going to be a surprise to you. It's practice, 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 and practice even more, because that's just the only way to do it. That's the only way for you to improve on your time, is to do the question so many times that you build muscle memory. It's become a second nature to you, and you've become just really, really quick. And a way to see that practicing is really what allows you to hit those marks is that now, if I do the questions a year later, I'm not hitting the marks anymore. I'm not at the same time that I was last year, and that's just because I haven't practiced for a whole year. But just before my UCAT, I was practicing every single day. So practicing really is the key to decrease your time and hit the key times that you do want to hit. Okay, so I guess I'm done with this video. I hope that this video was helpful, that you were able to learn a few tips and tricks and techniques to help you manage your time for the UCAT, that you're able to now maybe understand a bit more how to improve your time as well and hit those marks that you do want to hit. And if you did enjoy this video, please, please, please subscribe to my channel, like this video, and share this video with other UCAT test takers or other people that could benefit from it as well. And until next time, I think I'm done. Thank you for watching.